Hey everybody, it's Coach Bill Hart, and I want to tell you a little bit about this interview. But just before I do, I want to tell you that it wouldn't have happened had it not been for your own Lori Richardson. I think most of you know that she is one of the top loan originators in the country, but I don't know if you really appreciate how hard she works at truly delivering value to you as a realtor partner. I've been doing this a long time on kind of both sides of the fence, right? Mortgage and real estate. And I can just tell you that she is so the exception in this space. What happens often is most people either don't pay any attention to really what value they can bring to the realtors, or they do it sporadically. The difference with Lori is she does it constantly, and she does it all the time. She introduced me to Jeff Cohn in Omaha, Nebraska. He's a machine. He and his team sold 600 homes last year, and they have a goal of selling 2,020 in 2020. It is unbelievable to me. And look, you don't have to have any aspiration to do those kind of numbers. To listen to this interview, pull one or two things out, apply them to your own life or business, and watch what happens. If there was one word that I would use to describe this particular interview, it would be scalability. He is all about scaling his business. I really hope you enjoy it, and you are blessed to have Lori Richardson in your backyard. I hope you take great advantage of that relationship because she's there for you. Make it a great day. Okay, so Jeff, welcome, man. So glad to have you on the show today. How are you?
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. I'm doing great today. We're going to finish this up, and I'm headed out to go boating this afternoon.
Nice. So the weather's good.
Looking forward to it. Weather's gorgeous today in Omaha, Nebraska.
Right on, dude. Right on. All right, man. So we got a lot to talk about. Your name has been coming up with some regularity, and you know, the guys on the coast, right, have the $1 Million Listing shows, and those are the names that you hear. And in the heart of America, Jeff Cohn is hammering out crazy numbers with a goal of 2,020 units in 2020. Do I have that right?
That's what we're doing. Let's do it. So I'm in Omaha. I got licensed about 10 years ago, back in 2007. And Omaha has about 1 million people in the Omaha metro area.
Okay.
And our average sales price is $209,000. That creeped up about 5% this last 12 months.
Nice.
There's 24,000 sides every year that take place, 12,000 houses. My team last year did 601 sides. We've been the number one team in unit sales in Nebraska for the last 3 years.
Wow.
Last year we were number 2 at Berkshire Hathaway worldwide. 2016 we were number 38 in the country in unit sales.
You.
To date, as of this interview, Bill, we're at 450 sides.
Wow.
On track. We're trending to sell about 750 units this year. And gross commission income, people on the coast always want to hear this.
Yep.
2.6 million last year, trending to do about 3.2 million this year. And I'm keeping about 30% of that. And that's one of the big USPs of this, podcast today is just talking about how we're able to keep so much of that.
Just tell us a little bit about, you said you've been in the business 10 years. What did you do just before this, Jeff?
Yeah, so before getting licensed, it's so funny when I first got licensed, people said, what'd you do before you got licensed? And I would say, I went to college. And they'd say, well, what was your job? And I said, well, I had jobs throughout college. So I came out of college and decided to be a real estate agent. At 23, I took my real estate classes and got my license at the end of 2006.
Yep.
And went full-time 2007, which was right out of college. I also spent 2 years as a missionary in Brazil, learning fluent Portuguese and Spanish. So 4 years in college, 2 years on a mission, grew up really fast. So I knew what I wanted when I decided to go into residential real estate.
So I love that, and I'm actually filing away in my head that because I'm writing a book right now that it's called White Collar Warrior Lessons for Sales Professionals from America's Military Elite. And so I've interviewed Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and Force Recon Marines, and I look for the bridges between success, right, between the military and sales.
But I love that one. Like, okay, so let's see. You get out of college, you do a 2-year mission, you get perspective on the rest of the world, and then you come back and get a real estate license. Hello.
One of the things I did, Bill, in terms of creating patterns in my life and in my business, is I interviewed 20 people that I always had looked up to as a kid that were over 50 years old, established, maybe even retired. And I said to them, if you were 21 years old again and you were me, so they knew my personality trait, what would you do? And everybody said sales, don't work for a company, don't let somebody else control your destiny. And so I chose residential real estate. And then when I got into residential real estate, I did the very same thing. And I said to myself, you know, if I'm going to be the best, I want to interview all the top agents in my market. So did that, applied all the things they recommended for 5 years, and did it all over again with agents nationally. I've been to over 50 brick and mortar offices across the country to meet with top selling agents, and then applied that into my business.
The point that you just made, I think, about profitability, the fact that you've got 30% dropping of your GCI to the bottom line. Let's talk a little bit about your structure and where did that process even begin for you? Where did you start the process of even starting to focus on that?
You know, it was in my mind when I was 6 years old. My grade school at the time had a candy bar sales charity event, and the winner, which was the child that sold the most candy bars, was going to win a Nintendo 16-bit. When you're 5 or 6 years old and someone's throwing out a Nintendo, you're going to do everything it takes. So I spent several days sitting in front of a local grocery store with my dad. He bought cases and cases of candy bars, and this little bald kid, I haven't changed much, but this little buzzed head kid was like, hey, you want to buy a candy bar? And I started doing like 2 candy bars for $3 and like working all these deals. So ever since I was very young, I had a pretty big outlook on what I was capable of achieving. And I always knew you can talk profit all day long, but profit wasn't as important to me as time. So every project I'd work on, even like I did snow removal, I power washed decks, I did a lot of hard labor, blue collar type of work, but I learned very quickly I shouldn't be the one personally doing the work. I had to learn how to use that leverage component and focus on the profit margin, because it's not just, you know, obviously it's not just the gross that comes in, it's what you take home at the end of the day.
Totally. 6 years old. 6 years old. What I love about that is one of the guys that I have coached over the years that told me his story early on. He said that his dad wasn't around. He grew up in an apartment. His mom was working 2 jobs. And one day he just decided he was going to pop popcorn, put it in little bags, and go down to the pool, like one of these apartments with a pool. He was selling the popcorn for $1 a bag. He made more that day than his mom did.
Oh my gosh.
But that's where it started for him.
Great story.
Right? Very entrepreneurial in the beginning.
And I have to give a lot of credit to my dad, because had he not taken the time and energy to go, he told the school he wanted 8 cases of candy bars. No other parent was ordering 8 cases. The school thought he was crazy, but he promised that he'd buy them if we couldn't sell them. The normal answer that someone may have given you was Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, written in 2003. He now just has recently rewritten it. That book has really helped me from a business standpoint. I deviated a lot from it. I didn't like how low the splits were, especially in my market where the margins are a lot lower than East and West Coast. So in his book, I think it says to pay out around 40% to agent commission. We have about 60% going to agent commission, 10% going to overhead costs, and 30% coming back to me as net profit. And then the other big takeaway for me is to earn that 30% and work as little as possible on my real estate business. And so I'm always focusing on making more net profit and working less hours. And that's been my war cry for 10 years. A lot of people talk about that return on investment component. And one of my big focuses has been ROT, which no one brags about, and that's return on time. So I think the new cry of millennials is how little did you work to earn whatever living you're earning.
Well, I love that, and I think that is the cry. I hear that over and over again, and I love it, and I respect it. And, you know, I go back to Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, right? And everything that he's now doing with his podcast and Tools of Titans, it all comes back to that. Let's come back. Now, remember, you're talking to, while they're higher producing realtors, for the most part, they're still going to be approaching their business traditionally. So at some point, right, I mean, they started knocking on doors or calling FSBOs and expireds. And, you know, as I look at your business mix right now, that's not your business mix. So I'd like people to hear your philosophy about, first of all, just tell us, where does your business come from and why?
Great question. And, you know, the big focus for us was to have a team. I started in 2007. So I've seen the entire shift.
Great year.
Yeah, it was. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And I got better and better and better. We've never had a year where we didn't grow.
Wow.
And we've actually, since 2011, have grown by triple digits every year. So we went from 300 to 400 to 500, 600, so on and so forth. And we were able to do it because we didn't focus on one main bucket. So you'll see teams that just focus on their sphere, just focus on outbound calls and prospecting, or just focus on internet leads.
Yep.
And I said, hey, if all of those are the best 3 funnels, why don't we focus a third of our time into each one?
Yeah.
And not only did I say it, I then held agents accountable to it, and I provided them training behind each lead source.
So good.
And I found the top 5 sources from each one, taking advice from Tim Ferriss. I looked at how my agents would spend their time every year, and then I'd help them individually, depending on the agent, refocus their time and attention on the areas in which they actually received leads the year before. Because one person might love open houses and do two deals a year, but not recognize their church group is what churned out 80% of their business.
For sure.
And so we're very intentional about tracking that and tracking all of our returns.
You're building a business that is very scalable for you. And again, I want people to kind of hear that from you. Like, there's different ways to do it, right? You mentioned the millionaire real estate agent. Gary sort of goes through that pyramid thing, right?
Yep.
Where you first you're hiring an admin, right, is number one.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and he goes down to the whatever he calls that kind of ultimate layer where you're kind of out of the business and you've got other things going on.
Seventh level is where you're making $1 million a year and you're not having to sell real estate. I hit 7th level in 2014. So
nice.
I absolutely 100% believe in that process. It doesn't have to be, everyone wants like the roadmap, and I give out a free roadmap as well of how I did it, but it doesn't have to be one way. You just have to be intentional about getting yourself out of different roles until you're at a point where you could choose to never sell a house again, but still be able to continue to generate income.
Yeah, man. So what I love about what you just said is that there doesn't have to be one way. My experience is, and you know this, you've been in the business 10 years, there's an awful lot of gurus in our business that have done their thing admirably, and then they create a business. They either create a speaking or a coaching business, but then what they do is they say, do it my way. And my belief as a coach is that's just not how it works. Not everybody's wired like you, right? So to find something that's going to work for them, like you said, maybe it's from their church group, maybe they love knocking doors, maybe they play golf all the time and they're going to work the country club, like whatever. There's a variety of different ways to do it. I love that you get that, and that you it seems like you sort of provide then a menu for your team. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. So we help them find areas where they have the greatest strengths, and then we try to help them exploit that strength. And so we have a success coach. The success coach will sit down every week with every single agent. He does an incredible job and helps hold them accountable and helps train them and coach them. And then he helps have them set goals, and we have them set goals based on where we believe they're going to really take off. Every person on our team takes the DISC assessment. So we know based on their personality traits what seat they're going to fit best in. A great book that speaks to that is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, right?
Absolutely.
And so that was a book I had read right when we were starting to launch our team back in 2011. And so back to that lead question, there are the top 5 lead sources from each of those buckets that our team focuses on. The challenge is if you're an individual agent today servicing, but you want to get out of the day-to-day servicing, it's really hard to leverage your sphere of influence. You can't push a button and double your sphere. Whereas if you focus on internet leads, let's say from Google AdWords, I can literally push a button today and double my AdWords spend. I spend today $7,000 a month on AdWords, $2,000 a month on Facebook, $1,000 a month on Craigslist, $2,000 a month on my CRM, $1,000 a month on my marketing site. So I have all these things that I'm spending money on, but I can take that all the way back down to 2011 where I was spending 1/10 of that spend. And the only reason I paid more was because I was adding agents. And every time I'd add a couple agents, I had the revenue to be able to add the leads.
So interesting. Is there some kind of ratio where you could say, here's where my spending is going, and here's what I'm doing in terms of bringing agents in? I mean, does that kind of take off like this?
Yeah, for sure. So
talk to our audience about that.
What I have found is the average agent in my marketplace wants to make a 6-figure income. So we go out to the agents that are the nation's average, doing 9 to 10 deals a year, and we say, hey, with us, you're going to go from 10 to 36. We're going to 3x your business for you, and we're going to be able to do that because we're going to teach you how to re-engage with your sphere at a higher level and communicate with them. We're going to help you prospect at a higher level with all the tools and information we're going to provide. And then we're going to generate leads to you. And every agent on my team gets 33 leads a month, unscrubbed leads. So these are leads coming from Google Ads, Craigslist, Facebook, Zillow, etc.
Yeah.
Well, we found that with 33 leads, each agent can sell on average one house a month from my lead sources. So we're averaging a 3% closing ratio. And so what we've chosen to do is we don't give agents more than 33 leads. So if my team generates 90 leads a month, I need to have 3 agents. If it's 180 leads a month, I need 6 agents. And so we've chosen to expand our team with leading by leads, like kind of like leading with revenue. We lead with leads in terms of agent count.
Man, I love that. So you have to have read Chris Smith's book, The Conversion Code, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Do you agree with his basic philosophy? Do you see consistency in that? If you remember, he worked for Quicken Loans, then he worked for a real estate company, and his whole thing was just, I mean, it's not like it's brand new thought, but it's really just sort of the sales funnel, no longer thinking about leads as leads. These are just people. They're entering into the equation virtually. That's the only thing that's different. But to call them online leads like they're from Mars is just not accurate, right?
I would disagree in this only sense. So we've been tracking our lead conversion from sphere of influence to prospecting to internet, and there's definitely a different result from each lead source. From a conversion standpoint, the only reason being when you generate a lead from your sphere or from prospecting, the assumption would be you have already engaged said lead.
Right.
You've talked to them because they're a prospect or they're a sphere lead. An internet lead that comes in, you may have never talked to them and you may never talk to them again.
For sure.
And you win the game of lead conversion by having communication and endearing yourself to the lead and getting them to know you, like you, trust you, and getting them face to face with you. And so it's very challenging a lot of times because these internet leads might register and you never get a hold of them. So that would be the only difference. But people are people, and I love the idea that Chris lays out there. They are all humans. They're not from Mars. And an internet lead versus a sphere lead versus a prospecting lead, they're all people looking to buy, sell, or for real estate.
Yeah, there's a bit of arm's length, right? There's a way for them to create a certain amount of anonymity if they choose not to engage, which actually brings me to video. If you respond via a text, right, so you type an email back to that lead, you're going to disappear with everybody else. When you have the opportunity to engage by video, there's a very different level of connectivity. Can you speak to us a little bit about your experience with video and how you use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been using video for 6 years. I know now it's like this huge buzz because Facebook rolls out Facebook Live, but we've always had a big following in video, and obviously video blogs. People talk about it. A lot of agents are scared to do it because they're fearful they're going to look stupid. I just got back from VidCon in Anaheim, video conference all about YouTube and Facebook, and it's one of the leading video conferences in the nation. And I spent 2 days there, and they talked about how the future of video is authenticity. They don't have to be 19 minutes. They don't have to be 90 seconds. As long as it's value add, people are going to watch it. And I've always come from an authenticity standpoint. I've been willing to look stupid. I don't care if I look stupid. I don't want to look stupid, but I'm okay putting myself in that situation, which endears people to me because they think, wow, I wish I could do that. This seems like a real down-to-earth person. So the video content I created was giving everyone within my database, which at the time I started with this marketing company, getviral.com. It's viral marketing. A friend of mine launched the business. They have over 70 employees now. And at the time I had 1,000 people in my database. And Frank Klesitz, the CEO, said, Jeff, you don't even need to worry about search engine optimization in Omaha, Nebraska. Build your own Google. If you had a database of 1 million people in Omaha, you never need to rely on Google. So today I have 60,000 people in my database 5 years later. When I'm 55, I'll have 1 million people. That's my goal, is everyone in Omaha, I have their email address. And so every 2 weeks for 6 years, I've sent an email out to this audience. I'm averaging 3,000 views every 2 weeks. And the emails are all about real estate, flipping, investing, cleaning your house out in the spring, whatever topics I think that the public would find valuable. And then Viral Marketing writes a whole article about it. And anybody that clicks on a call to action or, of course, responds to us, I have an internal sales agent team that scrubs those opportunities and sets up appointments for my agents.
Dude, that is so good. So, again, 60,000 go out every 2 weeks?
Yep.
Because you have email addresses on 60,000.
It's anyone that's ever bought, sold, referred, or registered on our website.
Love
and we have
that.
all their emails, and we host them in constant contact, and we make sure, they have the ability to unsubscribe. Anytime somebody comes in, they can opt out if they want to.
So good,
and I can
man.
see how many people click on it, how many open it, how many engage with the content. And the other thing we're doing with video that's very new is called erslivestream.com. And we've been broadcasting all of my team's trainings on Wednesdays and Fridays to all of my agents in Omaha so that they don't have to physically come to the trainings if they don't want to. A lot of millennials don't want to have to show up, but it also has allowed us to create a video library. So if someone wants to learn more about any particular dialogue, we have 52 dialogue trainings a year, and they can dive into whatever topic and watch the recording. But where we found is that teams across the country are needing this same content. And so we started a subscription-based service for $497 a month. People can sign up at erslivestream.com, and they can have access to 12 hours of video content, the video library, and get a success call with Andy Cuny, our success coach.
Great idea.
No one else in the country, to my knowledge, is doing anything at this scale. We have we spent $50,000 on our video and audio technology, and the future of this live stream will be VR technology. So you can actually throw on your Oculus goggles, and you'll be in our office at our training, and we'll be rolling that out in 2018.
I'm exhausted.
Let's do it, baby. The future, Bill.
Well,
if companies want to adopt the millennial mindset and they want to move forward in the next 5 years, you have to have a very strong video presence.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the one thing, people have heard me say this before, but I'm just going to go ahead and call it out. The main reason I find as a coach, 12,000 hours in coaching I've spent in 14 years, the main thing that holds people back from doing video is what you called out. It's, I don't want to look stupid, or they say, I look fat or I look old. And here's the truth of the matter: you probably look fat or old.
That's what I said.
It's just
you're bald, man. Put a hat on.
I apparently have gray hair and wrinkles. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when this happened, but whatever.
Right.
It's just like once you get past that and get rid of that inner critic and you just engage, watch what happens to your business. It's logarithmic the way that it takes off.
Bill, let me address one other thing. I think a lot of agents are hesitant because they want to see their return on investment.
For sure.
And what I always say is Coca-Cola can't gauge if they got a positive return on investment from the Super Bowl commercial. It's just brand awareness. The videos I send out is part of the, let's call it the 10-touch process to create value with the product that we sell, which is customer service. And so I love going back to Michael Mayer's book, The 7 Levels of Communication. Michael talks about communicating in an informative way and then communicating in an influential way. Video is not influential. It's informative. You're providing information, but what you're doing, again, using the word endearing, you're endearing yourself or your brand onto the customer base that's watching the content, making them feel comfortable, warm and fuzzy inside that they now think, if I worked with one of their agents, I think that I'd feel comfortable working with them.
100%.
So for anyone listening, I am always the face on the video. I'm the person that's representing Omaha's Elite. And then at the end, I always say, be sure to reach out to your Omaha's Elite agent to go find that next house, to refer a deal, or to list your property.
So that's a great point that a lot of agents are already thinking of. So I'm glad that you brought it up. Once you start to scale and expand, you're going to run into the, well, wait a minute, I thought I was getting Jeff. So if you set that expectation up front, right, that is less of an issue and maybe a non-issue.
And I'm owner. I say, hey, it's Jeff Cohn, owner of Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group. I don't sell anymore, but I represent our team on these videos. It's kind of like that kind of a mentality.
Well played, man.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. We're coming up on the tail end of our time together, but I am curious about your response to this issue. The vast majority of the country doesn't have enough inventory, right? So, I interviewed Larry Kendall, who wrote Ninja Selling. If you haven't read Ninja Selling, make sure you get that one on your list.
I'm in chapter 4.
Okay, sweet. So Larry he's in Fort Collins, Colorado, right? And he speaks to this idea of the dual market. And his point is, for the first time in history in many markets, you can actually sell in a seller's market. And then if you're moving up, you can buy in a buyer's market, right?
True.
Very cool concept that you don't hear discussed a lot. What I'm curious about from your perspective is talk to me about inventory.
So we're seeing the same thing with the dual market.
In
our marketplace, over 350 to 400, you start to get back into a buyer's market, and under 350 to 400, you're in a seller's market. So, and my experience starts in 2007, and my focus was always buyer lead generation. When agents come and visit here, we host a workshop here every month, jeffsworkshop.com, if you want to know more about that. When people come out to the workshop, they always ask, how do you generate listings? I said, we work buyers.
Yeah.
And so 70% of my team's business today is still buyer business. 30% is listings. I think that a healthy team's probably 60-40 or 50-50.
Yep.
We're working in that direction,
Yep.
but listing leads is sphere-based. Sellers call someone they know, and usually it's hard to convert internet leads, in my opinion, into a seller. A lot of people use like the home valuation landing pages or Facebook.
Right.
I don't feel like those are the best places. I think it's engaging with your sphere. And so it's communicating again with video to say, hey, you're in a seller's market if your house is priced under $500,000.
Exactly.
This is the time to move and sell your property, and you're then going to save money on the buy side. It's all about just communicating that. But what I think is the challenge is if you're a team focused on listings, I think this is a really hard time, especially if the clients you have already just recently sold their properties and you're trying to tap in to a new marketplace. So I would really highly urge or encourage those listening that aren't doing a lot of buy-side business. You don't have to personally do it. Hire a few agents, start generating some leads off of the internet or training those people to engage their sphere or in their own prospecting efforts and get some more buyer business.
That's
and
great.
You'll find about 10 to 20% of those buyers have a home that they need to sell, and you'll acquire listings that way.
That's a really great philosophy, man. I appreciate that. And that's one that anybody can apply anywhere in the country. So, at the end of this interview, I think people are going to want to know a little bit more about you. They're going to want to take you in their car. They're going to want to learn from you. So we know about erslivestream.com. We know about jeffsworkshop.com. Anything else that people need to be aware of? How else can they stay connected to you?
Yeah, anybody that sends me a Facebook invite would love to have you as part of my Facebook community. You can just search Jeff Cohn. It's just JEFFCOHN. And then just for anyone listening, I'll give you a free gift. It's my roadmap to success. It also has my lead conversion guide to convert internet leads at 3%.
Cool.
And that's jeffsfreegift.com.